Okay, good morning, everyone. So, today we will be starting our next topic, that is principles of GIS. Along with that, we are also going to study in brief the GIS data structures. So, very briefly, I will be coming to the topics which we have already covered in the previous lectures. That what is GIS? As we all know, it is all about the capturing, storing, querying, analyzing, displaying, and finally to come out with some spatial analysis and some database management practices, and using that we are able to getting some final outcomes in the form of maps, tables, and structures. So this is all about the basics of GIS. Now, this is a method where we can visualize, manipulate, analyze, and display various spatial data in the form of smart maps, linking the database to the map and creating a dynamic displays, which will be looking like something like that, where you have the multiple information along with their non-spatial information in a single platform. Now we can also go for query and analysis, and we can create different kinds of measurements which are related to finding out the distance, aerial, and different kinds of statistical analysis. Along with that, we can also go for the location of a place or a feature, conditions about different attributes of the location, patterns of the landscapes, and various land use and cover classification. Then trends which are based on different temporal changes in different elements. It may be forest resources, it may be water resources, it may be in terms of settlement structure, how it is changing with time. Then we can also plan for different kinds of activities which are related to the movement of roads or networks, etc. So it can help us in simple analysis, that where the stress vegetation, where the location is actually located inside the village area, how far a particular component is from the another one. So these kind of analysis which we have studied earlier. So I will be brief going through just like that for your revision also. Then organizing the spatial data. Now it organizes the spatial data with the help of GIS. Now here we can G means geographic, which is related to the weather condition of the area, atmospheric conditions, population, hydro, topographical, geology, geographic, etc. Then, as you all know, we have studied it many times, that GIS, it helps us to know why and how GIS can help us. We must know that GIS is and what it can be used for. So, because it is able to give us many questions answer, many elements are of GIS, and application areas are also there in GIS. Okay, so it helps us in finding out various global problems, like the major challenges which we face is overpopulation, pollution, deforestation, natural resources degradation, and then the natural disaster, critical geographic dimensions. It helps us with local problem also, whether investigating an individual facility or figuring out the best route in case of emergency or something. So we can go for different kinds of analysis which we have studied in our earlier studies also. Now, there are few things which makes the GIS distinctive from the other subjects. GIS technology, because it integrates the spatial and non-spatial, so it is the uniqueness of this subject. Along with that, it also helps us in visualizing and geographic analysis of different features. Okay, so it helps us in visualization as well as the graphical analysis of various maps. Along with that, we can integrate the spatial and non-spatial data sets in a common platform. Then the GIS readily converts the data between the different data models. Okay, now what are those data models? They may be models which are based on some specific statistical software, maybe some other software based models. So we have readily available models which can be applied on different kinds of data sets. Now it has the ability where GIS from other information system can make it valuable in wide range of public and private enterprising. For example, it helps us in the prediction of various phenomena, like if somewhere some disasters took place based on different simulations. Okay, so how to go for different strategic planning, because we know to some extent that how disastrous it can be based on the past and present studies. We can able to predict the future of that particular phenomena, based on which we can go for the strategic planning to overcome that particular problem. Okay, so it is not in the case of disaster only, it is in the case of food security, it is in the case of to locating some forest fire potential areas or risk areas, or it is also helpful in demarcating the potential zones for habitat suitability, the potential zones for water suitability. So these kind of decision making things in terms of different application area, GIS helps us, and based on that we can go for different kinds of strategic plannings also, which makes the GIS distinctive from the other things. We have already studied many times that GIS, without the components of GIS, if we don't have the all the components in a single platform, it is difficult to integrate the different data sets. So we need all these hardware, software, data sets, the skilled people and different methods which are applicable into the different GIS softwares. Okay, so these are the basic components which are required for any kind of GIS activity to perform. So then the GIS has following operations which can be done in a GIS platform. They are data inputting in the form of data capturization and the digitization, then data sharing, where we have different kinds of data sets, metadata, data, maybe CDs, or maybe the web GIS. Through that we can go for the different kinds of data sharing. Then we have a provision of storing also through DBMS. Then we have different tools of different kinds of analysis, where we can go for different models, statistical approaches, etc. Then we have the option of data input also. Okay, sorry, output, in the form of different maps, presentations, PPTs, etc. Now this is a conceptual model of GIS, where in real world, whatever themes we have, we go for the creation of those layers or those files in the form of vectorization, and then we go for the overlaying of these layers. Okay, so what is GIS? Basically, I told you that this is a platform where we are able to organize, distribute, analyze, and visualizing the different geographic data sets. It is an data extension for DBMS. It is a geographic interface for the data retrieval and distribution. It can also be helpful for different kinds of data visualization related applications. It is also helpful in the different kinds of spatial data analysis, modelings, and decision making processes. Then We have already seen that GIS, if you have used different softwares, they need different kinds of instructions which you need to follow. And the core benefit of GIS, which we have studied through the basics which we have studied, we can analyze that the modern GIS provides us a point and click query capabilities, where we click on a point, we get the information about the particular point. Along with that, if we want the information about the complete area, we can have the information in its attribute, in the form of attribute, which can be display with the map, and it can give you a brief information about the area in a single go. It helps in analyzing the geographic data to look the patterns, the trends, and what if scenario. Okay, based on the patterns, based on the trend of a particular phenomena, we can predict what can be the future, or what if the trend is like that in 19, if the trend of a particular phenomena of a agriculture in a particular area from 1992 to 2020 is like this, so what can be the future? It can be estimated with the help of those patterns and the trend analysis. Then modern GIS has many powerful tools, like it can go for the proximity analysis, adjacency, containment, overlay, and the evaluation of different parts. So these are the unique tools which are very powerful in any kind of analysis, in any kind of decision making strategies. So these are the core benefits of using GIS. Then the properties of GIS: geographic data links the places, time, and attributes. Okay, so because we are talking about the spatial things, then we are talking about the different places. It can integrate, and it can tell us where we are. Then time, because different time series data can be analyzed, so when and what if can scenario can be measured. And then we have the attributes. Okay, so the descriptive data has the characteristics of both the things, spatial and temporal elements in together. Okay, then the representation of data can be in raster or vector. Okay, raster, I told you that it is a pixel based data where the data is stored in rows and columns, and vector is a xy, where the data is based on the xy location of the things. Okay, then we have these data structure in the form of raster and vector. Okay, in case of, this is a real world situation, in case of vector it looks like this, in case of raster it looks like this. Then discrete and continuous data. This also we have studied that the vector is always in the form of discrete data sets, and the raster is in the form of the continuous data, where we can go for the representation of different elevation and rainfall related data sets. These are the raster and vector data. In case of raster, a point look like a pixel, and point, in case of vector, it is the simple a point. Line and polygon, in case of these things, it looks like this, which we have studied earlier. Then vector are defined in point, line, polygon, where we have x and y location. In case of point, we have nodes and vertices. In case of line, it is a sequence of points, and polygon, it is a closed set of lines. Okay, so in case of graph or raster, it looks like this. In case of triangular network, it looks like this. This all we have studied in our previous lectures also. And then the attribute data, it looks like this, and it can be stored in the rows and columns in the form of tables. For raster and vector, both the attribute information will be looking like this. The contour informations, okay, then contour lines, it can be shown like this. Hydrographic data models are looking like this. So the channels, a conduct or the water course carrying the water flow under a gravity. Okay, so there are complex three-dimensional geometry in addition to the properties. Okay, so for example, we have rivers, streams, creek, canals, ditches, culverts, storm sewers, etc. So this is a three-dimensional river channel. Okay, so hydrological data model can be done through this vector analysis. Then this is the length of channel considered as a single hydrological entity. For example, a length of river between two tributaries. Between two tributaries is this much. Represented as a polyline in a shapefile or vector in a coverage file. Okay, this is a water body. Okay, here we can estimate the width and the parameter and the area of the water body, and lakes, ponds, reservoirs, then bays, swamps, marsh, they are the example of these water bodies. Okay, again, we can represent the polygon in a shapefile or a vector coverage also. Flow network analysis, a set of connected flow lines through channels, reaches and water bodies. ठीक है, so this is called as the flow network. Okay, now this is represented as an entire shapefile or a vector coverage comprising the polylines for each feature. For each drainage you have a polyline. Then this is a watershed. The area enclosed with the drainage boundary, within a drainage boundary, is known as watershed. It can be called as the drainage boundary or drainage divide. Okay. It also it can be called as a catchment or a basin. These are the bigger units. The catchment basins. So these all are denoting a different features of the water bodies. Okay, then we have watershed, a basin, drainage or a catchment area, that is land area that contributes runoff to outlet points. Okay, so this is an example of watershed, boundary delineation, sub watershed. Okay, under this watershed we can have a small watershed. Now a sub drainage area within a watershed is known as sub watershed. The outlet or is a location of a flow line upstream of upstream of which a drainage area can be defined. Okay, so also called as subcatchment or subbasin. Okay, now this sub watershed can also be called as sub catchment or subbasin. Now this is a reach catchment. Okay, now the area or the drainage are locally defined around a particular channel. Okay, around a particular channel. Now this is one reach area. Okay, so around a particular locally defined channel, when there is a drainage, is called as reach catchment. Sub watershed, so these are different features which can be captured with the help of different vector or vector coverage files. Okay, now there are various vector data formats which are as follows. For different softwares we have different vector data format styles. So ISRI vector formats are shape files which can be stored as SHX or SHP or DBF, ArcInfo coverage files, okay, and then geodatabases. Okay, so these are the different vector-based data formats. Then we have raster-based data formats where we have ISRI raster formats in the form of grades in terms of IMG files. In Geomatica, it's PIX files for different software. These raster data can have different file extensions. Other than that, any GPG, any PDF, or ये Mr. Sid.sid form, tin data, imported files through USGS, DRG mode, DEM, okay, remotely sensed Landsat images, LIS images, all these images are raw images, are raster data formats. Then we have the file types. When we are talking about the file types, we have point, line, and polygon. In case of image means raster data, we have aerial photos, digital elevation models, satellite images, etc. Okay. Then the GIS is used for the maps, but offers more power than the mapping softwares. Okay, so you can see here a common product of the GIS is can be a simple map, but behind the construction of this map we have lots many things to learn about. Okay, now is it, how is it used, ये कैसे यूज किया जाता है, हाउ वी यूज इट. So first example, the web page asks where is the nearest ATM from a specific point and how do I get from here to there. Okay, for example, so example 2, this website allow access to the county GIS department. Okay, example 3, the 3D view. Okay, we can have a 3D view using different softwares. We can have a 3D view of a particular settlement area. Then 3D version of map on the previous slide. This can have the ability to query different things. We can go for the querying of different things, that where is a a particular hospital, where is a particular restaurant, where is a, suppose we want to know. So that examples again are based on the queries which can be done through GIS platforms. Then based on these examples, we can say that GIS can have application in different areas which are related to environmental studies, which are related to the forestry and wildlife tracking systems, which are related to different business and retails, which are related to various applications of land information system, which are helpful in various military or defense operations, which are also helpful in various urban planning and town planning, utility and facility mappings, land use and land cover, thematic mapping, and landscape change analysis, water resource management, natural resource management, wasteland development, anything you can think of, there is an application of GIS. Geographic databases, we need to create geographic database to store various kinds of data set and apply different kinds of models and techniques for capturing and storage of those kind of data sets and come out with some analysis. Then this is overlay analysis, where we have different kinds of analysis, where we are talking about the union of these features, where we have both the things in a single layer. Okay, both the properties of both the layers can be in single layer. Then we have the intersect, where we can clip out the common area of both the layers. And then identity and identity zoning. Okay, so this is all about the different overlay analysis. Then hardware and software resources, the rapidly increasing power and the relative affordability of the workstations now provide the user access to powerful machines for different kinds of GIS operations and different kinds of analysis, which we can have different decision support. Things can be done with the help of these kind of activities. Then we have the different kinds of models, statistical analysis, and different other applications which are related to the different kinds of data analysis. Okay, then with the advancement of software and hardware, again we are able to do different kinds of simulations and different kinds of modeling, which are helpful in various levels of plannings and management activities, which are related to different management of resources, whether it is natural or man-made resources. Okay, with the help of different packages, and we can use these things with the help of different software packages. Then we have the issues which are pertaining to the different kinds of environments. Okay, so the critical role of water in human and natural environment. The role of GIS is very important for any kind of management of these resources. Okay, so we can go for the different modeling techniques, we can be going for different simulations, on the basis of which we can go for the prediction of different kinds of analysis. And then with the help of different elevation models or different tins or contours required for the hydrogeological applications, we can go for different analysis which are related to different applications of these hydro geologic applications. Then we can also go for the analysis of length, area, and quantity computation, overlay of the different thematic layers, and buffer zone generation for different water resource development applications. Then the specific application of GIS in with reference to water resources is basin planning, the watershed demarcation, and the watershed development. Okay, then water resource and the irrigation potential assessment. Then identification of water resource development project sites. Then environmental impact of studies, particular studies, and their environmental monitoring related studies can be performed. And then command area monitoring and disaster management activities can also be planned with the help of these GIS and remote sensing tools. Then the capabilities of GIS are presentation in graphical manners, presentation in maps, data query, and the spatial query, okay, of a specific feature. Along with that, we can have different queries as per the need of the study. Then the routing and the minimum path calculation, buffering analysis, overlay analysis of various layers, and then distance, adjacency, and proximity analysis, miscellaneous other analysis like neighborhood function, network analysis, 3D analysis, etc. So these are the unique capabilities of GIS. Then query and analysis, this we have discussed in our previous testing. Then data query can also be done with the help of different GIS tools. So the GIS offered a powerful tool which makes the hidden data visible to anyone. And this type of data query is also called as show me the a particular thing on the map. Okay, so you can say that it can be called as a show me a query. Okay, then most available GIS packages are designed to effortlessly perform the data queries. Okay, then we have an option of special queries also, where we can query for different maps which are related to queries which are pointing a particular feature, or which are denoting a spatial windows in a form of some circular or rectangular manner. Or now these kind of spatial queries can also be called as tell me queries. Okay, the previous one, the data query was called as show me query, and the spatial query can be called as tell me query. Okay, then it is also helpful in the routing and minimum path identification. So this is a ability through which we can go for an analysis of shortest path along with the transport networks. Okay, and then these routings involves legal travel from one point to another point along with the designated networks. Okay, so it is officially marked that what is the different routes involved from reaching one destination to another destination. Then we have minimum path analysis, which involves the finding out of the shortest or the fastest or the most appropriate route from one point to another point. So these kind of route analysis or minimum path analysis can be performed with the help of these spatial tools. Then the buffering analysis, the buffering, in case of buffering analysis, a buffer zone is fixed up with the width around the particular feature. Now buffer around a point takes a shape of circle. A buffer around a line is in the form of corridor, and in the around the polygon feature, it is a bigger polygon. So while we are buffering a point, it will be a circle around the point. And then if it is a line feature and around that we are creating a buffer, it can be called as corridor. And if around a polygon we are taking a buffer, it can be a bigger polygon as compared to the original polygon. And now these buffers around point, line and polygon, they can help us in different kinds of proximity analysis. Okay, then the buffering lines are you know having 60-meter buffer from the roadside. Okay, so we can say ki this 60 meters of land is having more chances of having accident prone areas. So those kind of analysis, when we want to have from a line or from a particular polygon, we can have this working buffering analysis. Then we have overlay, which refers to the ability to compare the map features and attributes across the two or more map layers. Okay, so it can be called as a visual orientation, but many analytical operations require one or more data layers to be joined physically or to show all in distinct combinations, where we have the union, where we have the intersect, where we have different operations related to these overlay analysis. So in case of overlay, what we are trying to do, we are trying to compare map features and map attribute across two or more map layers. Okay, so overlay analysis. With the help of overlay analysis, we can have an idea of containment analysis. Okay, or other kind of analysis also we can go for. We can have an idea about containment analysis, where we can have answers for the queries like which earthquake zone are located on land masses, what are the areas having crime occurrence within the a particular district, and which roads lie entirely between the local jurisdiction of the areas, which habitats do not lie completely in the protected areas. Okay, so clearly there are close relationships among the questions of proximity, adjacency, and containment. So often two or more of these techniques are suitable for answering a question. So containment, adjacency, and proximity, these are three functions where we can go for the containment of a particular feature inside of another feature, or how far one feature from another feature, and what is the relationship between two features. These kind of analysis can be done with the help of this proximity, containment, and other functions. And this is a type of digital elevation model where we have different areas along with their elevations. So with this, I think I'm able to brief you about the different principles of GIS. Along with that, the different data structures as far as these raster and vectors are concerned. So with this, I will be ending my today's lecture, and now you all can appear for your quiz in your LMS. And thank you very much. If you all have any queries, you can ask me now, or you can note it down, or either you can mail me or you can ask me in our next class. Thank you very much. Good day. Bye bye.